but we can assist their elected leaders in giving them small doses of socialism until they wake up one day to find that they have communism, unquote, Nikita Khrushchev. And now along comes the nice Jewish seltzer man from New York, the tussled uncle, the grandfatherly figure, peddling an age-old lie that he's just selling fairness and clean water and clean air. But he really isn't. What he's selling is totalitarianism, a top-down government that tells you what to do from cradle to grave. The yoke of communism is what old Bernie is selling. And yet there are millions of deluded people who do not know the history of socialism, nor the history of communism, nor the con man Sanders and what he actually is. We have one right now from Spokane who likes Bernie Sanders, and I'm going to give him his time on the air. Bill, welcome to the program. Say your piece. Go ahead, please.
Well, your call screener got it wrong. I don't like Bernie Sanders. I called in to say that a lot of my friends.
I'm okay. I thought we were going to have a good argument, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it worries me because, I mean, these guys are well off, well educated. We're in our mid-60s. Some are retired. And the bottom line is, I was having a discussion with them the other day, and they actually hate Trump so much that they've told me to my face that they would vote for Bernie Sanders.
What do they expect to happen if Bernie the communist wins?
You know, they seem to brush it away and go, well, he can't do so much, and blah.
So they're saying it would be a protest vote against Trump. Is that it? Just a vote from out of spite?
Yeah, that's it. They just hate Trump, man. It's the whole litany. He's a liar. He's this. He's that. You know, and I just don't.
So they don't like the country the way it is. The fact that there's almost anyone who wants a job has a job. The low unemployment doesn't impress them. Nothing matters to them. They just hate him.
You know, I've known most of these guys all my life, and they do like the country. This is what I can't get my head around. Why?
So what is it about Trump that they don't like? Tell me what they don't like, please.
They don't like his style, basically, is what it boils down to.
So they don't like the brash New Yorker, is what it comes down to.
I'm sorry?
They don't like the brash New Yorker part of him.
That, and they just think he's a con man, a liar. They basically are drinking the Kool-Aid they hear every day on the CNN and MSNBCs of the world. You know, it's crazy.
Well, so you say there's a little warning on the horizon.
Yeah, I do. And, you know, their wives are definitely all in, too. And I think that's where a lot of it stems from, that they just...
Oh, yeah, the bed mate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Why are the women so easily taken in by lies? What is it about that? How is it women are so easily taken in by this old con man, Bernie Sanders?
I
don't know. I mean, you think a woman would look right through him and know what he is? He's the kind of finagler who would try to screw his best friend's wife. We had that in San Francisco from a former mayor. No one seems to care about that anymore. So, you know, many of the underpinnings of our morality in America are gone. And I think that explains how a man like this could get so far. There is no morality in America. This is a post-moral America, don't you think? And of course, they're ignorant of history. I don't have to repeat Santayana. Those who do not know their history are condemned to repeat it. But maybe I'll repeat Santayana. Those who do not know their history are condemned to repeat it. And apparently most Americans don't know anything. Dumb.
Well, that's
just dumb. Dumb as a doorpost. You know, I'll repeat Mencken, who said no one ever went broke, underestimating the intelligence of the American people. And when you see a con man like Bernie Sanders, who's been a slacker and a bum his whole life, getting this far on such old rhetoric, Mencken was right. Never underestimate the intelligence of the American people. Never. Because if a guy like that could get this far, peddling socialism and communism, anything is possible. All right, we have diverse mediocrity on display in New Hampshire, and how we've gone from Einstein to Weinstein in one generation may explain it. When I come back, a very special guest on communism in New Hampshire.
Michael Savage, a host like no other.
And the reason I believe we are going to win is that we have an unprecedented grassroots movement from coast to coast of millions of people.
Coast to coast.
The reason that we are going to win is that we are putting together an unprecedented, multi-generational,
shut up. Please take yourself some. Shut up, you con man, you. He is the most detestable of all the candidates because, A, he's a con man. He's never produced a product or service anyone has ever needed. And he is peddling a very old story. I gave you the history of socialism in America in the last hour, going back to the utopian communities in the early 19th century, all the way through Eugene V. Debs, Norman Thomas, Michael Harrington, and how the Democratic Socialists of America supported Obama in '08, and how they're supporting this cretin right now. Joining us to put this in context is a great guy, friend of mine, Alex Marlow, who is, by the way, editor-in-chief at Breitbart, and he joins us right now on the Savage Nation. Alex, what do you think about this victory of this communist socialist Bernie Sanders last night in New Hampshire?
Dr. Savage, first of all, it's great to be on the show with you. It's the first time I think I've ever been your guest, and I really appreciate you saying so many nice things about Breitbart over the years and promoting our content.
Oh, no, it's a great site. I love Breitbart.
Thank you. It means the world to us because we all respect you very much. And you touched on something that I feel like you and I are the only people out there who are saying this, which is he's not authentic. Everyone keeps telling me how authentic Bernie Sanders is. Socialist with 3 homes, and he's got patents on all of his books. And then his campaigns buy his books to the tune of $500,000 at a time. Like, he is the least...
Wait. He's funneling some of his campaign funds into buying his own books?
Yes, he buys...
I thought only talk show hosts were doing that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There's a bunch of talk show hosts who pretend that they're great geniuses who do that with their front foundations, but I didn't know Sanders was working like a talk show host.
Oh, that's exactly what he does constantly, and he's got patents on it. And, of course, Dr. Savage, you could always give a gift to the United States Treasury and pay the tax rate he wants all.
What do you mean? You got a patent on a book? I have a copyright. How does a patent help him as opposed to a patent?
That's what he's got a copyright on the book. So
okay, right.
He's not.
So he receives all the royalties from the book.
Of course.
For him and his pig wife, I understand.
Yeah.
Him and the pig wife who busted out of college up in Vermont, like mafioso.
Well, that's right, and that's what he's doing with his entire family. And know that one of the big things that Sanders does is he started all of these sort of nonprofit things, and then they always end up shuttering, and he always puts a family member in charge. He's done this over and over throughout the years, but he's got incredibly wealthy because of this thing called media buying, which is one of the...
I know. So he and his pig wife are running it like a mafia bust-out game.
That's the way I see it, and it's been not adequately investigated. I don't think the media has fully vetted Bernie, and even people...
Well, we know why they don't. I mean, when you got lightweights like Jake Tapper and Wolf Blitzer sitting there, they were dumbfounded by what they had created, that this Frankenstein actually had such a victory. They looked terrified by it because I think even their bosses who have been playing the game of socialism all these years and playing the game that they hate Trump were shocked last night at what could happen from the Frankenstein they created last night. That's what I saw.
Yeah, that's precisely correct. And now there is total panic, and I always like to check out the New York Times, not to get information, just to get a sense of where the left mind is at. And I think now that they think the savior could be Bloomberg for them, which, again, he's another guy who has not been, I think, vetted publicly. But you're right to warn about Sanders and socialism. And the thing is that he's got some people convinced he's the genuine article when he's absolutely not even close to that.
Well, right. He has run with communism under the guise of democratic socialism, and it's worked for him. He went from being an obscure slacker in the Upper West Side of Manhattan who never held a job. According to his friends at the time, he lived like a leech in people's houses and apartments. He moved to Vermont during the hippie era, and he conned his way into being mayor of Burlington, which is a college town, isn't it? Burlington, Vermont?
Yes.
Yeah. And the very same rhetoric he used in Burlington, Vermont, launched him into the U.S. Senate. And this once pristine state of Vermont became a cesspool of left-wing fanaticism. And now he is threatening to tear down America. Frankly, we both know he can't win. Look, yesterday's podcast, Alex, was mine. My title was that Bernie will not cross the finish line. Now, that has a sort of ominous undertone to it, which is that if he, God forbid, should win the nomination, which is almost impossible, given the way the Democrat Party works, and they don't want him to win, but if he should somehow wrest the nomination from the Democrats, do you actually think they're going to let him become president?
I think that the jury is out on this, and this is why I've never seen so much talk from the establishment left-wing media sources that I have to follow for work. I've never seen so much brokered convention talk in my life, and this is the reason why, because even a lot of the Democratic establishment, even though a lot of them flirt with communism and socialism, they don't like the extreme rhetoric that Sanders uses. And you saw this 2 days ago. He flat out said, we want to fundamentally transform the United States of America.
Right, and he's always attacking the white man. Why does Sanders have such a hatred for the white man?
That is I have no clue. And this is a across-the-board thing in the Democratic Party. And it seems like...
Well, right. Well, Occasional Cortex and her girlfriends are all stone-hearted minority racists. Everybody knows that. And no one will say a word about them. These are classic racists. That's all they do is sell racism. So Sanders taught them this, though, because it works. Apparently, peddling racism works for these people, and it works for Sanders. But again, I don't want to get too diabolical in my commentary about Sanders. I do not believe they'll let him win. They will never let him win because the Democrats who run that party are billionaires, and they're not going to let a communist take over the party. But can you explain what a brokered convention is for the savage audience, please, Alex Marlowe of Breitbart?
Sure, and I don't have all the mechanics at my fingertips, but I do know that if they don't hit a certain threshold of delegate support, and a lot of these delegates, it's sort of like a electoral college type system when it comes to nominating a candidate, and the party does the nominating, and a lot of these delegates are freelance. They can kind of end up voting the way they want, and a lot of them are assigned based off of the vote electorally, but ultimately these candidates will cast a vote at the DNC, which will take place over the summer. And if they don't get a certain threshold, then what ends up happening is there's a negotiation that takes place. And you could nominate someone who potentially did not earn the most votes or even the most assigned delegates. And so this is where a lot of people are fantasizing about maybe a Hillary Clinton coming in or someone who hasn't run at all, or perhaps a candidate that's seen as more of a moderate versus Senator Sanders.
Who do you think in reality will get the Democrat nomination and run against Trump? At this time, if you were a betting man, Alex, and such, who would you bet on?
It's hard to say because I would have said Biden up until the impeachment got out of hand for him, which really hurt the Biden family more than it even hurt the Trump family.
Oh, so even though Jake Tapper, Wolf Blitzer, and the other clowns wouldn't talk about Hunter Biden's Ukraine scandal, the American people got the message about the Biden family.
But this has been the big secret that you've known for your whole life in talk radio, is that there's so many people getting their news from talk radio and from the internet and places where Jake Tapper and Wolf Blitzer are not influential. And there's a very small audience that's listening to CNN and getting their opinion from CNN. But by the way, I have to go back and note, Dr. Savage, I loved your comment about how Sanders is obsessed with racism. The only other guy who's more obsessed with it in the Democratic side is Tom Steyer. So the two whitest guys there are the ones who are most concerned about racism, yet neither one of them will step aside for a minority to be the candidate.
Steyer is a stone-hard phony. He also went to some polling place who told him that push polls show that if you spread the lie that white people are racist, it'll help you in the campaign. It didn't work for Steyer, but it definitely seems to be working for Sanders, isn't it?
Yeah, it's working to some degree. And just to finish answering your question, I think technically now, if you're betting, Sanders is still the favorite, but he's not, I think, overwhelmingly a favorite. I think it's very much in flux, and I'm not trying to shy away from making a prediction here.
No, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't think the Democratic Party would let Sanders in a million years win the whole thing. Never. They're not going to let him win it.
Well, could be correct, and I'll tell you, my sources are telling me they're deeply, deeply concerned, and they're.
Well, how much further do we have to go, Alex, than Barack Obama 2 weeks ago coming out, sounding off the alarm bells about the far left movement of the Democrat Party? He's a billionaire now, Obama. All of a sudden, he's worried about the socialists taking over and taking back some of the money he garnered.
Yeah, I don't know what his motivation is there as well.
It's very simple. When it suited him, he used socialism